All right, well, welcome. I have invited a special guest, Mr. John Runyon,
Hey
our Chief
everyone.
Operating Officer. You've probably seen him floating around in our private Facebook group. And welcome to our living room. We wanted to do an informal Module 12 video just to kind of go over some of your really common questions that you have about quitting your day job. So first of all, make sure you check out the workbook. You'll see a ton of templates for a goodbye email to your team. You'll also see a sample resignation letter, and then also a great marketing referral letter that you can use to email everyone you know and tell them about your new business after you quit. So the first thing I want to cover, and this is really why I've invited my husband to join us, is because the number one question I get from a lot of you already is, what do I do about benefits when I quit my day job? Like, now I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And that was definitely a question we had too, but this guy knows all about it, and he saved the day and figured it out.
That was the scariest part, right?
Right.
That was probably the scariest, was what do we do about insurance?
Yeah.
How are we covered?
And that was the first thing my parents asked us too. That's all they cared about.
I think that's the first thing everyone asks. What do you do? How are you doing insurance? What do you do? So let me put your mind at ease. It's not as crazy as you think. There's probably a few different ways you can go about it. So if you leave your job and you have a partner who is employed, you can jump on their benefits, no problem. It's open enrollment because it's a life-changing event, right? You lost employment, and so you can jump on your partner's benefits. So that's number one. Number two, if you can't go on somebody else's insurance, then you can always get covered by COBRA. Once you leave your employer, there's, I think, a 6-month period where you can actually still continue your benefits, but through COBRA, which is, I think, a universal coverage nationwide. And so you pay a fee, and you can get covered the same coverage that you had as while you were employed through COBRA. So that's number two.
And we had to do that because I had some dental work that we had to do.
Emergency dental
Well, it
work.
wasn't emergency, but
we
used it and it worked out. We did COBRA for a little bit too.
So we did COBRA.
We've done it all.
Specifically, yeah, I think we've covered actually all three of these options. So we went on COBRA for, I think, 2 months. We got covered on COBRA. During that 2 months, really figured out the next option, which is to go through healthcare.gov. So you go to healthcare.gov. It has a ton of information on how to get your insurance. So if you can't go on your insurance through your employer any longer, you go to healthcare.gov. It gives you everything you need to know. And the first thing you'll do is figure out if you have a state exchange. So for us, it was Covered California. So that immediately takes you to another site and has all the info there as well. But if you don't have a state exchange, then you stay on healthcare.gov. It literally took me 15-20 minutes to apply for insurance. It was probably way easier than anyone thought. So it took me 20 minutes to finish. At the end of the application, which is really basic info, you're giving your social and date of birth and how many people are in your household, your income, and then it runs through that little check, and then it'll come back and tell you, congratulations, you are eligible for X insurance. And that's basically running through to see if you get a federal subsidy or not, or how big your federal subsidy is. So that's actually really nice. So at the end of that application, we knew we would be covered. And so you basically hit, submit, and then you actually have to pick which coverage you're going to go with. So for us, there were probably a dozen different options. We wound up staying with Kaiser Permanente, which is the insurance that we had previously while we were employed through our employers. So it was actually really seamless.
Yeah.
Like we got new Kaiser cards, but with the same number on there, so you don't even have to change any of your medical record numbers or anything.
And you were able to budget it out for us before you actually quit and made the leap. We kind of knew what our costs were going to be and they were actually, it was kind of surprising. It wasn't as high as everyone had been telling us. Oh gosh, you know, if you quit your corporate job, it's going to be so expensive.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So you don't have to wait until you are not insured to actually go to healthcare.gov, and you can do an estimator. So you can see which we did, and it was really comparable to what we were actually paying through our employer. So the big, question of what do you do for insurance? You're no longer tethered to your employer. So
and you were still paying when you had an employer too, and that's what I think we realized is we still had a chunk of money that was going out of our paycheck. You just don't see it in your paycheck.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the big, elephant in the room that nobody likes to talk about is insurance. And so I'm here to tell you it was a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. So it's really a good time to be an entrepreneur. Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with them. I'm sure it'll...
You're welcome. And you're welcome.
Help ease some fears here.